What's going on, guys? It's Josh here with Buckeye Bowhunter, and today I am out here doing some shed hunting. Finally got some time here this weekend. It is the weekend of February. I think it's the 19th today. I tried to go out Friday afternoon. We had a bunch of snow come through, and it's just really hard to shed hunt in the snow, especially a fresh snow. Can't see any sign, can't see any trails very well. It's warmed up significantly. It's got to be at least mid-50s, I would say. All the snow is melted, as you can see. So my plan is I'm at the Frank farm today. I'm gonna walk as much as I can of this property today. And as I'm going, I just want to kind of talk about my top 5 shed hunting tips. Kind of let you guys know what I think helps me be successful during shed season while I'm shed hunting. I don't find a ton of sheds every year just because of, you know, the areas that I hunt are really small property lines, and I'm kind of confined to you know, where I can hunt, what I can walk, unless I get permission. You know, I usually do find a pretty good handful every year. Yeah, hopefully we find something, and stay tuned for my top 5 shed tips. Little doe bed. So as we get going here, we're going to talk about my first tip of the day, number 5. Make sure you're using some sort of tracker. So I use Onyx Maps, and it has an awesome tracking function that you just hit the start button and it tracks exactly where you walk throughout the entire day. Absolute necessity, in my opinion. I walk so many areas and so many places over you know, a month or 2 period that, you know, you can kind of forget what you walk. What that tracking function allows me to do is, you know, make sure I'm not missing any spots. It's super helpful on like a daily scale, where like making sure I'm not missing any locations, especially if I'm walking through some really thick stuff like this, where, you know, maybe I can't see very far, I can't tell how far I passed when I came through here earlier, and to make sure I'm not missing a section or something like that. The thicker it is, the harder it is to make sure you cover everything, and that tracking feature really allows you to do that. It also helps you on like a long-term scale, like month to month, where it's, you know, this is my first shed hunt of the year. By the time March 20th rolls around and I'm still shed hunting, I may want to come back here and check this again. I may forget when I hit that. Did I hit that, you know, early March? Did I hit that early February? It'll help me keep track of my shed hunts, what I found. I can use pins and stuff to keep track of where I found the sheds, where I didn't find any sheds, which is a big one, because if I'm walking through an area early in February or mid-February and I expect to find sheds but I don't find anything, I'm probably going to want to come back again mid-March and hunt it again to see if they've dropped at that point. But being able to kind of catalog all that and keep track on a daily basis, making sure you're not missing stuff within that shed hunt, but also helping you keep track of, you know, where you were, when you were there. And even on a long-term scale, for like where I hunted last year and the year before, and maybe I missed spots, or maybe I did really good in spots. Believe it or not, everybody thinks they aren't gonna forget where they found that big shed or where they found those sheds at last year or the year before, the year before that. But I'm telling you, it's hard to remember everything, and having something like Onyx or HuntWise or anything like that, they all do the same thing, is going to be super helpful when it comes to shed hunting and any type of outdoor activity really, but shed hunting, I use it a ton. So that's tip number 5. Let's keep walking here, see if we can find anything. That's a giant hub scrape. Look at that thing. I've just been working through this cattail swamp here and haven't found anything yet, but that brings me to my next tip, tip number 4. And that is slow down. It took me a really long time to get to the point where I didn't feel like I was running through the woods all the time. I always felt like oh, what's around the corner? What's over that hill? What's behind this bush? Because of that, I was always just moving through the woods so quick, or through wherever I was shed hunting so quick. And what happens is, even if you're thorough and you're covering everything you need to be covering, look at that bed right there. Big old cattail bed. What happens is, you're gonna miss antlers, just plain and simple. No matter how good you think your eyes are, no matter how good you think you're looking, if you're flying through expecting these 170-inch antlers to jump out at you, I got news for you, there's not many of them. You know, even on a day like today where something like that I would think stands out pretty well, you're gonna walk past a ton of antlers. No matter how well you think you covered the area, I'm telling you, woo! Slow down. Take a few steps, stop, look around, look back the way you came, which is a big one. And when I mean slow down your walk, slow down how much ground you're covering in a certain amount of time, and also slow down spinning your head around looking for stuff. Your eyes, slow your eyes down. Make sure you're actually looking at things, because antlers hide, man, especially in stuff like this. And sometimes if you're not looking directly at it, if you haven't covered every inch of what's near you with your eyes, you are gonna walk right past it. So that's when I really started finding a lot more antlers, is when I realized it wasn't a race. So that's tip number 4, slow down. Mixed with that and a tracking app like onX, you're gonna be able to cover everything and not miss a beat. Ooh, what's this? Not an antler. Got an owl popping off over here. I don't know if this microphone's good enough for you guys to hear that, but that's pretty cool. Well, I might as well talk about it since I just pulled them out. Tip number 3 is bring a pair of binoculars. Binoculars are going to save you a ton of walking, especially when it comes to more open areas. Like, I'm about to walk out into this big open bean field. I'm not going to walk every inch of this bean field because I can see across it pretty well. But these binoculars are going to absolutely help me cover more ground and see anything that, oh, is that an antler? I can pop them out, double check if it is or not, and keep moving without having to walk, 50, 60 yards every time I think I see an antler, which, as you guys know, if you've shed hunted at all, it happens a ton. So bring a good pair of binoculars. I got a pair of Vortex binoculars, a pair of 10x42 Diamondbacks, work really good for shed hunting. Bring your binoculars, make sure you have them, save yourself a lot of walking. Everything starts looking like a shed. So having a pair of binoculars is definitely in my top 5. I suggest you bring a pair with you. So. Whoa, look at this. What a serious bed right underneath this tree in the middle of this cattail swamp. That is a serious bed right here. Huge. I mean, just like Dan Infalt says, man, big old car hood sized bed. I just bumped a deer out of here walking in. Out in the middle of this swamp, right at the base of this tree. It's this little dry hump. Everything else is underwater around it. We got a trail coming out to the west, a couple trails coming out to this bean field out here, but pretty freaking cool, man. This is something I'm definitely gonna mark on my onX and keep this in mind for next year. Alright guys, I am gonna finish this video. If it's the last thing I do today, this is the last time I'm coming out to shoot this video. And I thought I was done yesterday, but it turned out it was so windy, the audio like destroyed my video. It was terrible to listen to, so I did not want to subject you guys to that. So I figured I'd come out again and give it another shot and do a little more shed hunting this evening. So I really like shed hunting on days like this. Everything's wet, it's been raining all day. Them antlers really like to tend to stick out on days like this. Shiny, wet, white antlers, easier to see against a dark background. So hopefully we can find something today, but with that said, let's get going, and we'll get right into my number 2 shed hunting tip. That is expand your search. So if you're like me and you hunt, you know, northeastern Ohio, northern Ohio, and you're stuck hunting these 40, 50, 60, even 100 acre properties, you might have a really hard time finding antlers. Any antlers at all, let alone, you know, specific deer's antlers. If those deer aren't spending time on your property when they're losing antlers. It seems pretty simple, but if your properties are anything like mine, you got a ton of bucks all through the rut, a bunch of deer using your property. It's thick, there's a bunch of bedding, there's a bunch of you know, does keeping them bucks here. But the later and later into the year, the further away from the rut, deer start worrying about, you know, less about the rut, less about mating, and more about survival. Food gets more scarce, you know, the terrain and the cover opens way up. I know this swamp, you know, early fall, you can't see across it. Now I can see, you know, 200 yards across the whole swamp, all that bedding gone. So them deer, you know, especially the mature bucks, especially after an entire rut, you know, entire month and a half, 2 months of chasing does and being around a bunch of other deer, they want to be alone. So sometimes they'll move out, they'll go find some super thick cover, and if that's not right where you're hunting, if that's not on that 50, 60, 70 acres that you have permission to hunt, you're not going to find them antlers. So expand your search, knock on doors, get permission on properties around the property that you're hunting. See if you can find where that buck went. It's really easy to get permission to shed hunt, believe it or not. A lot easier than it is to get permission to, you know, deer hunt or turkey hunt, just because a lot less people care about shed hunting than deer hunting or turkey hunting. So knocked on a lot of doors where I know people deer hunt, I know the homeowners deer hunt, but you know, they don't got time or they don't care about shed hunting, so they, yeah, have at it, you know. But you know, making sure that you are expanding your search outside of the properties that you deer hunt are really going to help you find more antlers. If you're not in the spot where the food is and where them deer are yarded up, you're just not going to find antlers. It's just that simple. The times that I've done the best, the times that I've found the most antlers in a season is, you know, unfortunately for the farmer, but those years when the crops can't be taken off the field, maybe it's too wet or whatever, and now you got standing corn all the way into February. Well, you'll have a herd of 30, 40 deer piling up into that cornfield every night, and they're bedding on your property. Of course, you're gonna find 7, 8, 9, 10 sheds from all them deer. And that's the experience I've had. So if you can expand your search outside, you know, up to a mile from where you're hunting, if you're looking for that specific buck and find that location that he went to late season, if he wasn't hanging out on your property, you're gonna do a lot better. You're gonna have a lot more luck. You're gonna find a lot more antlers. Tip number 2, expand your search. I'm going to expand my search through this swamp, and hopefully we can get on some antlers here. There's a lot of good sign in here, believe it or not. So all right guys, so it is About 5 o'clock now. I've been walking around for an hour and a half or so. Rain's starting to let up a little bit. I am absolutely soaked to the bone. I want to talk about my #1 shed hunting tip. So I really appreciate you guys hanging in there to the end here. I thought long and hard about this #1 tip, and I feel bad because I may have tricked you guys a little bit. It's a tip that may not help you find more sheds, but I think it's more important. You know, I could give you guys a tip on, you know, make sure you're looking for sheds and bedding areas and the thick stuff. Make sure you're following trails. Make sure you're looking in, you know, food sources or where they bed at night, you know, grassy swales in the middle of big fields, stuff like that. But I think it's more important to kind of get at the heart of what shed hunting is and what I think is most important about it. That is the antlers aren't everything. Shed hunting is not all about the antlers, at least for me, and I think that's how it should be for you too. Now obviously there are some people who aren't hunters that love shed hunting just because it's fun, and it is fun. Finding antlers is fun, but to me that's kind of a bonus, right? I think the most important thing about shed hunting is learning. I think for so many years, you know, I was out here shed hunting and just getting like in such a zone where all I'm looking for is sheds, all I'm looking for is antlers. I'm almost not paying attention to everything else in the woods, in all the things that the sign from the previous fall is trying to tell me. To me, that's the most important part about shed hunting. You know, most of us shed hunters, if you're out here shed hunting and putting on 30, 50, 100 miles in a spring looking for antlers, you're probably a pretty hardcore deer hunter. I don't think finding sheds really helps you be that much better of a deer hunter. I think finding an antler can almost kind of give you the wrong impression, and I think people give it a little more weight, or it holds a little more gravity than some people than I think it really deserves. Most deer are losing their antlers well after deer season has ended in most states, and from year to year you really can't bank on that buck coming back to the same location, let alone during deer season. So if I find an antler in the beginning of March, it's a buck that I want to hunt next year. It doesn't really help me at all for hunting him in the fall, especially when I'm probably taking my vacation in November. It really does nothing for me, except I know that he survived, which is something that is much easier to figure out using trail cameras than out here stomping around looking for antlers. There are cases where you have really good habitat. Those bucks spend the majority of their time on that land. They don't leave all year, and them dropping an antler that you find could give you some insight onto where he's spending that late season. But even then, you know, crop rotation, different food sources change every year, bedding areas change. There are so many factors that can change from year to year on whether that buck's gonna actually be in that area, where I don't think it's as important as actually paying attention to the things that you're walking past while you're looking for antlers. That's the second thing that I use OnX for, or any app, any tracking app, Hunt Stand, whatever you use. Every time I find a big hub scrape or a big buck bed like I did the other day, I'm marking that stuff. And that's the stuff that I don't want to forget. That's the stuff that is going to help me be successful next year, in my opinion. So my #1 tip to you guys is to pay attention to what the deer sign is telling you while you're out here shed hunting. Don't just get in such a zone where you're blowing past everything and all you care about is finding antlers. Antlers are awesome. I love finding antlers just as much as the next guy, trust me. Finding a big buck bed like I did, finding a huge hub scrape, finding a giant signpost rub, that's the kind of stuff that gets me just as excited, because that was made during the fall this past year, and I can assume if it's not that buck, a different buck is probably gonna fall into suit next year when I can hunt him. Hopefully you guys aren't disappointed with that tip. Hopefully it makes you think a little differently about shed hunting, because, you know, I'm not the best shed hunter on earth. I don't find a ton of sheds. Maybe it's a coping mechanism so I don't feel so bad that I stink at shed hunting. But that's my mindset when I'm out. I don't need to find antlers to feel like I'm successful. Just reading sign and finding out new things about the properties that I hunt that I didn't know before is as beneficial, if not more, to me. So hopefully you guys take that to heart and you feel the same way I do. But besides that, like I said, probably gonna end the video here. I'm just working through this real thick stuff. Deer tend to bed up along this swamp and this thick stuff where it butts up to this hardwoods. Maybe I'll pick up an antler here on my way back to the truck. But I really appreciate you guys hanging in there for this video. Hopefully it helped. Thank you for all the subscriptions. Thank you for all the comments. Please keep the comments coming. I try to respond to all of them that I can. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time I make a new video. Also, follow me on Instagram if you guys have it. I have an Instagram page, got a ton of content on there. I try to post on there as much as I can. The last thing I guess I just want to note before I go is this spring, look out for my new series, my new turkey hunting series called Roosted, presented by BUCKEYE BOWHUNTER. It's gonna be awesome. I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be kind of a live series, semi-live series where I'm gonna be posting, you know, through the season, you know, within a week of when the video was actually taken, so you guys will be able to follow me throughout the entire turkey season, where I'm hunting, what I'm doing. I got tags for Kentucky, I got a tag in Ohio, and who knows where else I might try to hunt this year. But I'm really excited about that. It'll be kind of the same format as it has been in the past, just branded a little differently. Like I said, it's called Roosted. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's gonna be fun. I got some new video equipment and stuff I'm excited to try out. So definitely keep a lookout for that this spring. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one, and good luck this spring. Stay safe. Life is funny sometimes, I'll tell you that much. I'm about 200 yards from my truck. I just got done. I walked through this whole swamp, walked through all this woods, and I'm just walking the edge of this field, and I stopped right here to like look at my phone for a minute. And as I'm putting my phone away in my pocket, like I moved the phone out of the way, and right underneath me is a spike shed. Look at this. Pretty sweet. Now that is a find right there. Like, I almost think that's cooler than a big shed sometimes. Like, that's hard to find. Like, what are the odds I saw that? I just happened to stop right here. Pretty cool. Looks like my top 5 shed hunting tips do work. Slow down, guys. Slow down, look around. There's no way I would have spotted that if I was just, you know, hightailing it back to the truck and just looking for big horns out in the middle of this field. That's just, you know, I stopped. I was looking at my phone, so I wasn't really looking, but you get the picture. So pretty cool. I'm gonna go ahead and pick this thing up. Look at that little guy. That is cool. Pretty sweet. First shed of 2023. It's still got the little waxy stuff on it around the rim, so very cool. Spike shed. Stay tuned for more of that. So see you guys.